If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With the all-new Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from good to excellent. Introducing the new Sleep Score on Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
The Freddy Fazbear box just dropped at Popeyes for $7.99, and it's scary good. Garlic palm tenders and cheesy bites with marinara sauce. Upgrade to the deluxe box for $12.99 and get a 20-ounce drink in a cupcake cup. Dig in
before it's too late.
Try the Freddy Fazbear Crunch menu, now at Popeyes. See Five Nights at Freddy's 2, only in theaters. Love that chicken from Popeyes. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants. Prices may vary.
I'm joined today by my conservative counterpart, Cincinnati area attorney, Joey Ashbrook.
Hey, Mike. Great to be with you, bud.
Yeah, looking forward to it. As I said on the weekend show, there were a number of things I was eager to get to that we didn't quite have time for on the regular show. And one of those is the continuing saga of the Comey prosecution. Because, of course, one of the, many problems with kind of really pushing legal boundaries is that it can be tough to find qualified people to carry out your orders after a while. For instance, Eric Siebert, the former U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, when he refused to prosecute former FBI Director Jim Comey for lack of evidence, he was forced to resign. And the accusation against Comey, for those who don't know, is that while testifying to the Senate Judiciary Committee, this was back in 2020, Comey lied when he responded to a question about whether he'd authorized anyone at the FBI to be an anonymous source concerning investigations involving Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. And so when Siebert said, hey, not enough information here, not enough evidence, he was pushed out. Trump replaced him with Lindsay Halligan, who's a former insurance lawyer turned personal attorney at Trump's with no prosecutorial experience. But she had the most important quality of Donald Trump, which is loyalty to Donald Trump. Though now it seems like it turns out that experience, it can matter a lot. In obtaining an indictment of Comey on charges of obstruction and making false statements to Congress, Halligan may have made several significant errors, at least according to Magistrate Judge William Fitzpatrick, who's handling the pretrial matters for Michael, I believe his name is Hackmanoff, who's the Article III federal judge who's assigned to hear the Comey case. Now, Fitzpatrick, over the last week, about a week ago now, ordered that Halligan give Comey's attorneys all of the grand jury materials that she used to obtain the indictment and wrote that what he called government misconduct might lead to a dismissal of the charges against Comey. Now, giving grand jury materials to the defense is an extreme remedy, and Fitzgerald noted this in his opinion, but in his order, but he felt it was necessary in order for the defense to raise the question of whether the indictments were the result of prosecutorial misconduct. So the main issues here seems to be, number one, that Halligan suggested to the grand jury that Comey did not have a Fifth Amendment right to not testify at his trial. That, of course, is not the case. That she erroneously told the grand jury that they didn't have to return an indictment based just on the evidence she'd given them, but they could be assured that the government had more and better evidence that they'd present at trial, and also that the grand jury approved an amended indictment without actually reviewing it first. And so following this was Judge Nachmanoff, who this week heard arguments from Comey's attorney about that, arguing that the case should be dismissed as vindictive prosecution. And the judge, he didn't issue a ruling from the bench here, but things didn't really seem to go very well for Halligan in this. And I think compounding the difficulty here for the administration are the many instances of President Trump clearly calling for Attorney General Bondi to prosecute Comey. So that's kind of where we're at this point. What's your take on this? I mean, just the potential legal errors or the wisdom of having Lindsay Halligan's maiden journey as a prosecutor be this high-profile case against Jim Comey.
Well, procedural limitations and safeguards are really important to all of us, especially from a criminal law standpoint. I personally have zero interest in James Comey, and I believe he abused his office in relation to the president when the president won office the first time. So I don't particularly get spun up in any way on James Comey. I disagree with the narrative about bringing in someone who's not competent. I think competence is an often overblown argument in that you don't have to have been a lifetime prosecutor to do the job. The most important thing in being a government attorney is being willing to pursue the government's interests and even prosecute where it needs to be prosecuted. But we'll have to see how it shakes out. I think right now the problems that you were talking about and unearthed are procedural rather than substantive. And the dynamic is going to play itself out, and there's going to be results. We got to let that happen and let it see how it goes. And the system hopefully produces justice and the correct result one way or the other, which I would say is not a result that the president got in the trials that were waged against him. So I think we'll have to see ultimately the procedural constraints. And if procedural constraints end up being dispositive in the trial, that in the big picture is not in the prosecution, that is not in the big picture a bad thing, because those constraints are what protects all of us. But I think overall, we just have to let it see how it plays out. I don't have a problem with the president appointing her for the role in for the attorney role, and I don't have a problem with the resignation of the prior guy, because it's a dynamic of people got to be able to do their job, and if they can't do their job within the context of where they are, resigning or being moved on is what should happen.
You certainly would not want somebody who is actively disloyal as a U.S. attorney. I agree with that. But it seems to me that I guess it's hard for me to believe that Donald Trump could not locate a loyal person who also was an experienced. I guess it's to me, and we saw this a lot in the first Trump administration, I would argue even maybe somewhat now, is that in his enthusiasm, I guess, that he oftentimes shoots himself in the foot, because I think that you could clearly have found somebody as loyal as Lindsey Halligan, who would have known enough to not make what are honestly, what even, right-wing sources like National Review and the Wall Street Journal calling rookie mistakes. And so, but that to me goes back to my general viewpoint that this prosecution really doesn't have anything to do with illegality. I mean, they wanted to get it in. They were right at the statute of limitations date, so they filed it kind of at the last minute. But to me, it's not about getting a guilty conviction. It's not about getting a conviction at all. It's about sending a message. It's about saying, listen, if you go after the president, buddy, there are going to be consequences. If you go after the king, you best not miss. And this is a warning to any future FBI director investigating either a sitting U.S. president or a major party candidate who could be president, saying, listen, do you really want to investigate because you saw what happened to Jim Comey and you want to take that chance? Or maybe it's not a Jim Comey, maybe you're a lower down person and you're saying, do I want to risk my job and my family and my security to do this? I don't think so. I'm gonna soft pedal this sort of thing. That to me is the real danger. To me, this is the bar, as you know, the bar to demonstrate vindictive prosecution, to get something tossed on that. Very high bar, and it should be. But boy, it sure does seem to me that if this isn't vindictive prosecution, I don't know what is.
Why wait for Black Friday? Blink Friday starts now with up to 65% off Blink Smart Security. Check on your pets all season long with new Blink Mini 2K Plus plug-in cameras. See your gifts arrive in head-to-toe view with Blink Video Doorbell. Ready to use right out of the box. Just unwrap Blink and go. Pet setters to busy families. Blink Friday deals have your holidays covered. Tap the banner to save now. Say hello to the all-new Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do so much more for you. Need tickets to see your favorite artist? Craving your comfort restaurant? Just sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. It learns your style, anticipates what's next, and makes it happen across Echo, Fire TV, and more. Learn more at amazon.com/new Alexa.
James Comey was involved in the substantively worst political scandal in the last 60 years against the will of a democratic will of the American people, that was worse than Watergate. So the idea Chuck Colson went to prison in Watergate. It's like the idea that there's criminal prosecutions related to the fallout from all that stuff to me is unremarkable. And the prosecution and the case will play itself out and there'll be a result. And I hope that the right result is reached whatever the right result is. I'm slow to criticize as an attorney who fights about stuff all the time. I'm slow to criticize other attorneys as something that might have been a mistake or because hindsight's always 20/20, and I have a healthy appreciation for how many judgment calls are made. And no matter what you do, the political class is always going to call something a rookie mistake on the back end. So I'm not going to be the next person to pile on Ms. Halligan, Attorney Halligan, for whatever tactical decision she makes. And it's like a quarterback in a game. If you've got Ben Roethlisberger for your Steelers goes 36 for 45 and he throws one pick but 4 touchdowns, and we'd be biznitching about the pick that's thrown, there's always error that happens, and you can't, there's a dynamic of, or for example, so that the second Super Bowl that Roethlisberger won, where they had to come back against the Cardinals, and that drive that was epic at the end of the game. I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm a Bengals fan. I was rooting for Kurt Warner and Larry Fitzgerald and the Cardinals. And that drive that he had, you could go back to that game and you could point out several, like, he makes mistakes. It's what do you amplify, the mistakes or the good things that they do? As a practitioner,
Sure.
I have an appreciation. I look at it through that lens. So it's hard for me to be critical of someone else in that regard.
But let me ask
the larger narrative point you're making.
Yeah.
So on that sense, I won't take the bait. But I disagree with the larger narrative point about vindictive prosecutions, because Comey was, again, involved in what I think was one of the worst political scandals. I mean, Dustin Hoffman, the guy's made a movie, Wag the Dog, about manufacturing the war. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
This is actually an actual example of the U.S. government on the back end of an election trying to thwart the democratic will of the American people through a duly elected American president by delegitimizing him. And then in the second wave of that, you're getting revelations of the federal apparatus spying on Republican senators and congressmen, and we're just doing investigations. I don't really have, to me, it's unremarkable that you have criminal prosecutions falling out from all that. I understand there's always going to be impulses when you're people who are creatures of the institutional creatures, where you're like, do we really want to go down this road? Because then everybody's just going to reciprocally be prosecuting everybody from now on. But there is a need for accountability, period. So the point of the prosecution, the idea that he's in a prosecution, given his role in, again, the worst political scandal that does not get even the oxygen it still should get, is not really surprising to me. So I'm probably not the right dance partner on this particular issue to get overly fired up about, but hopefully procedural safeguards are really important for all of us, and I hope the right result is reached in this case, whatever that is.
Let me ask you this to kind of continue your football analogy.
Yeah.
You went with my Steelers. I'll go with your Bengals on the experience thing. I understand it. But so other things being equal, and you're right, you can pick apart any attorneys, what they do and what they don't do. It's easy to Monday morning quarterback these things, whether it's attorneys or actual quarterbacks. But I am willing to bet that if I said to you, Joey, the Bengals are playing the Ravens, you can have either a healthy Joe Burrow or a healthy Jake Browning as your quarterback. I'm willing to bet you're going to go with one of those choices much more than the other, because Joe Burrow is a much more experienced and qualified person, just full stop, than Jake Browning. And so experience matters. I'll say that. But the second thing you mentioned the Watergate thing, and I would think, I've heard a lot of the worst in Watergate. I always get Watergate comparisons aren't as bad as Nazi comparisons in American politics, but, they're kind of out there, I think, sometimes. And it seems to me that one distinction I would make, and I know you respect the rule of law and that sort of thing. I mean, Watergate were clear instances of people actually convicted of crimes for these things. And in this case, saying that Jim Comey, what he's doing is worse than Watergate, when he hasn't even been there's not even necessarily a good indictment as opposed to conviction, I would say, at least, would you be willing to say, well, let's wait for a second to kind of see what a jury might have to say about Comey's involvement? Because this, it seems to me, is very much a he said sort of thing, right? Comey said, no, I did not authorize the release of this leaked information about this. And there was, I blanked the other guy, the the other guy in the FBI saying, well, no, actually he did. That's a pretty weak circumstantial case, which I get why Siebert said, I'm not going to try to prosecute this thing. It doesn't have any legs. So, I mean, right. I mean, we should grant Jim Comey the innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, just like we would anyone else, right? Or not?
I agree. No, 100%. Okay. That's one of the important things of our country. You're innocent till proven guilty. The criminality of what he did is a separate question from what I think is the repulsive, smarmy participation in what he did. Those are two separate questions, which is why you have it played out. My point is no greater than, it's not surprising to me. So if it's bucket one, this is worse than Watergate. Bucket two, there should be criminal accountability for it. My point is, it's not surprising that we're in bucket one, bucket two, given bucket one. And on the football analogy, the truth, though, is that when you're a coach, if you've got your defensive personnel, and let's say you're a new coach that comes in, and Zach Taylor had to do this when he took over the Bengals. And the Steelers, this is harder for you to understand since the Steelers have only had 3 coaches for the last century, which actually I think is a virtue, not a vice. But I don't want to get you spun up on Mike Tomlin because I know where that's going to go. I think Mike Tomlin's a heck of a coach.
Oh, God. There, yeah, go ahead.
So maybe we'll get there in the rants and my recommendation is going to be Steelers keep Mike Tomlin when we get there together. But if your players are not executing the plan that the coach needs, you've got to switch them out. No matter how talented a player is, they've got to execute the play and do their job within the system. And so any coach needs it's good coaching to do that.
We hope you enjoyed this preview of our supporters exclusive midweek show. If you'd like to hear the rest of the episode, we hope you'll consider becoming a supporter. Supporters get ad-free access to all of our shows, membership in our Politics Guys Discord group where you can join in on the conversation, and other benefits at different levels of support. To become a supporter, go to patreon.com/politicsguys. You can also support us through Venmo or @politicsguys or through PayPal. You'll find all of our support links in the show notes as well as at politicsguys.com/support. And if you'd like to get the midweek show, but you're not in a position to become a financial supporter, that's not a problem. Just send me an email at mike@politicsguys.com, and I'll be happy to get that set up for you.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group,